Well, welcome to the Journey. My name is Kevin Polke, and I am the host of the Journey. And we have a special guest with us today, Ben Shaw. And Ben and I have been friends for I don't even know how long now. I think probably at least 10 years.
Yeah, that'd be my guess.
Yeah. Well, Ben, welcome to the Journey. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Excited. My first podcast, so we'll see how that goes.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you'll do great. Being on stage in front of people is not something that that you're not unaccustomed to. So
Right,
you'll
right.
do fine. So Ben, when you have an opportunity to have fun, what does Ben do for fun?
Well, when I have that opportunity, I do like to go out with my wife, have date nights as often as we can. We spend a lot of money on babysitting, but we consider that money spent on mental health, and we don't put a dollar amount on that. So just for example, last night we were with the Alpine Kiwanis group at the Ice Hogs game on the rooftop. And if you've ever been on the rooftop, it's not really positioned well to watch the game. It's positioned well to socialize and have fun in that. So we try to do that, I mean, as often as we can. Um, Outside of that, I don't have much time for anything else. Do some reading here and there when I get a chance. But I do really love spending time with my kids. So I have a 21-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 2-year-old.
And 21, 8-year old, and then you said 2-year old?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing better than kind of spreading those things out a little bit, huh?
Right. It's not your typical spread. I usually get some questions after that statement. So,
Sure, sure. Well, your kids are just wonderful, wonderful kids, wonderful people, and a lot of fun to when I see them running around at church and just a good group there. And how long have you and Sarah been together?
oh, now you're getting into the tough questions.
Yeah.
So we've been together about 12 years now.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And she is a school teacher.
Yes, she is actually a teacher of teachers, is what I call her. She coaches and cheerleads a building of teachers, and she loves having the opportunity to build in them, into them, pour into them, help them with training. As you know, it's more intimidating to ask a principal who's also your boss for help, because you're afraid of how that will reflect upon you negatively, possibly. But Sarah is not their superior. She's a peer supporting them. And so she's found that very both productive and rewarding.
Yeah. And I know that she's just got great energy, and I know that she works out at the gym, where Diane trains people and works out herself, and she just, is just a again another good person that just like you said, just likes to pour into people.
Yeah, she really enjoys that. And yeah, thanks for that. She's definitely, when I'm not at my best, she's right there by my side, coaching me too. So that's probably where she learned how to do it.
There, or at least got to practice, right?
It's a lot of practice.
Yeah. So, Ben, just a little bit about your background. Are you from the greater Rockford area?
So I'm a transplant. I came in, I actually was a college soccer coach, and at some small universities, and landed at Rockford University way back in 2009. Um, had I was married to my first wife at that time, and we had a parting of ways, and she moved to Decatur, and I found Rockford to just be a place that was irreplaceable as far as my needs of recovery and what that part of my journey needed. I was by that time heavy into counseling with KP counseling back in the day, and Celebrate Recovery, and found a church and found some men to lean into. And so I decided to have a long distance relationship with my daughter, and focus on me here in Rockford, and recovering. Long story short, a lot of cool things happened, and just the fast track of that as I met Sarah along that journey. My daughter, who used to live in Decatur, convinced her mom at the time when she was 13 to permanently move to Rockford. And so I have a full house with a loving wife and three children. And we've even taken in another young man that lives in our basement that's dating my daughter. He needed a place to live. And so we're packed at the brim, but the space may be tight, but the love and the energy is just overflowing, and I'm just immensely grateful to come through what was a pretty rough journey and come out to where I am at Bethesda, working for Safe Families, and like I said, talked about my wife a little bit already.
Yeah, yeah. And and since I've known you, I mean, I know the little bit of the background was with coaching, and then it was just in a variety of different ways of being able to help people with what you had learned that had helped you. I mean, remember
Exactly.
some of the classes that you were teaching back at what used to be Heartland, Heartland Community Church with the boundaries classes and celebrate recovery and all those different things. So that has been a big part of since I've known you, a big part of who you are is what you've learned, what God has brought you through in your own healing and recovery and self-discovery. You've shared that with others.
Yeah, it's I would say in my younger days, I was naive to think that teachers went out and learned stuff so that they could teach. And I quickly have learned through my experience, like you've just explained, that I was learning stuff out of necessity to survive, out of necessity to get to a place of thriving. And then when I looked behind me, I realized that I could give some of that away and give back. And so I became a teacher of boundaries and said things because I was at one point one of the chief violators of boundaries. Is just one example, but yeah, you put that well.
Yeah. So, one of the projects that you're working with now, besides being a husband and being a father and a member of Bethesda, is you're working with Safe Families. And so, maybe
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about what is Safe Families, what's their mission and purpose, and yeah, tell us a little bit about Safe Families.
Yeah, I stumbled across them years ago, and I kind of felt God nudging me to volunteer with them, and then even work with them. And I tried saying no several times, but I don't know if you've ever told God no, but it kind of
Mhm.
never doesn't work out too well. And then I inched in part time, and then I inched in to full time about 4 years ago. Safe Families is extremely unique in that we're a lot more on the preventative side of helping out children and especially parents, single parents. Um, and hopefully, your experience or anyone who's listening is growing up, hopefully, when you were growing up, you had a lot more people in your life than just mom and dad. Um, and if you were lucky enough to have both parents in your life, you had maybe aunts and uncles or small group members or trusted neighbors and family friends. And, you know, Mother Teresa says that one of the biggest problems of the world is that we draw our circle of family too small. And I agree with that, you know, I was fortunate enough to even have people that weren't blood relatives that I would consider calling an aunt or an uncle because they were just that close. And just a part of my life. And um, uh, during the childhood, we just believe in that it really does take a village. It literally takes a village. You want to call it whatever you want, a circle of support, a village, a crew, a church, whatever that village looks like, whatever it takes. Us parents want that kind of support. And Safe Families has come in and said, well, can we help with kind of connecting the dots? This isn't a new idea. Um, you know, Jesus talked about it 2,000 years ago, um, and of the Good Samaritan story, that someone else could be supportive in your journey, or along our journey, we could be minorly inconvenienced to help someone with maybe a life-saving moment. And children need that especially. So what we do is we have the ability to go out into DCFS, Child Protective Services, or wherever in the community, or just simply from our website, and find single parents, usually a single mom, who really just needs extra support. And if they don't get that little bit of extra support, they could fall into the foster care system and may break apart permanently their family. The foster care system is not known for their ability to reunite families. Um, it's just not necessarily what they're designed for, either, to be um, throw them a bone a little bit. Um, and for the example I'll give, Kevin, is just recently we had a mom who needed to go into the hospital um, to have a C-section, and that's a couple days in the hospital minimum. And she had nowhere for her 3-year-old to go. She had two options on the table. One, she could call DCFS and then be investigated and go through a very arduous process of getting the child back without the promise of getting the child back. Or she could trust a neighbor that she's known for about 2 months to watch the 3-year-old. So both of those have risks involved. Say families came in and presented a third option, and we have vetted, fingerprinted, trained volunteers in local churches that said, "Hey, can I pretend to be that 3-year-old's grandma for 3 days?" And we borrow the child. There's no custody exchange. The parent maintains full custody. They could come at 2 in the morning and pick up their kid, and we couldn't do anything about it. We're just a network of trained volunteers who want to be villagers in that child's life. And often what happens is an organic relationship forms with said 3-year-old and parents. And we have stories of families doing Christmas and Easter every year throughout the child's life because of what that meant. I'll kind of land with this, Kevin. I know, like, it feels good when someone loves on us, right? When someone loves on me, when someone loves on you, it feels good. But when someone loves on your child, you don't even have to know their first name. You'll run through a brick wall for them. And when we form that kind of relationship with single parents, we're able to have a lot of leverage and productivity in helping them establish some things in their life to prevent this from ever happening again. And that's, I think, what makes us a little bit unique, is that relational piece.
Gotcha. So in another term, I'm thinking of like almost like a respite care, where and it can come, like you said, in a handful of different ways. Maybe it is just needing that time to be able to do something, or in this case, a medical procedure, to have another child. In this case, but it could be just being able to fill in that gap when a single parent may not have anyone else to fill in that gap. Am I catching what you're?
Absolutely, absolutely. When they look at their phone and they realize that there's no one else they can call, um, for that extra support with a child that we've all needed as parents and appreciated along the way. That truly what we're battling here is isolation.
Mhm,
Um, is we're trying to connect them with
mhm,
relationships that could be of practical value, but emotional and spiritual value as well. And we believe that churches can be really good at that if they're coached properly and trained properly, and the red tape gets removed. And so often, well, not all the times, but often, mom will start attending church with the volunteers that loved on their child. Um, and then when they get connected, and if they get connected with a church, they don't even need us. Um, they've got people, they've got a village.
right. Okay. And I'm assuming this, and I don't know if you can correct me. Safe Families has been, you've been with Safe Families now for 4 years. But how long has Safe Families been around? How did that, if you know, how did that story start? Where did that start?
It was 21-ish years ago. A guy named Dave Anderson. He's still involved with Safe Families heavily in Chicago. He was known then for running an orphanage called Lydia House, which some people may have heard of, and saw a gap in between an orphanage and people in the everyday life, and saw that gap in between, that there were some people that fell into the foster care system, like you know un, unnecessarily, and couldn't get their way out. The example I use is if the mayor if Tom McNamara called in the National Guard and then 2 hours later said, actually, you know what, I think we're good, they'd say, no, you called us. We're going to stay as long as we need to stay. We're going to set objectives that we set, and we'll let you know when we're ready to leave. That's the kind of muscle that DCFS has. And now there are times where that is very appropriate. Um, but when a light touch is needed, it can be very inappropriate, or just not the right what they need, and it's unnecessary. And DCFS is a fan of us. They've noticed that their borderline intake numbers go down in every Illinois county where Safe Families has been productive. And so they actually donate quite a bit of funds to us, because say what you want about the CFS, they're not trying to drum up business. Um, and if there can be more preventative systems like Safe Families involved, they're fans of that too. So it started in Chicago, and it's now, I don't want to say 26 or 27 states, maybe 47 to 50 some chapters. Don't quote me on that. And it's even now in 6 different countries.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's an awesome, and to think that it's only 20 plus years ago that this concept came into being, and just having worked with organizations, and there's a lot of learning curves with any type of entity, and but it sounds like there's definitely some momentum now regarding the organization as a whole, and momentum. And now, when did the is it Winnebago or is it Rockford chapter? What's the chapter that you're involved with?
We call it the Rockford chapter, but we serve about kind of the 5 county area. We'll serve as far as we can, as far as logistics are concerned. We never want to take a kid out of school, and so there's things like that we have to factor in. But primarily, Winnebago County is about 95% of our dealings, and then there's a good chunk out of Stevenson County.
Okay.
Um, and we've been known, obviously, just to stretch into Boone County quite often as well. And if you go east, then you start getting into the Chicago chapters, which have been around 1 year since it originally started. And they have dozens of churches involved. We have about 4 or 5, and we're hoping to be like them one day. They're our big brothers in the system. And if you go out west, they get younger and younger as you go. Um, Another place is where they're really big in the UK. It exploded in the UK, and that's partially because I think their government, similar to the state of Illinois government, has seen the benefits and been supportive. Not every state has been as supportive as Illinois has been, where they've had a different uh, process on the way to legalizing safe families. Some states have legislations passed just for safe families. Um, Illinois happened to have an act that was passed years ago that kind of covers us. I forget the name of it, but it basically says that a parent has a right to choose a person to take care of their child for a short period of time, up to 1 year. And so our statute is we don't go beyond 1 year, and we're not designed for that. We're designed, like you said, more of a respite, temporary, 2 days, couple weeks kind of thing, with a definitive end date involved. So we don't get into the heavy stuff. If if parents were going to be incarcerated for 30 days and they're looking for somewhere for their child to go, that wouldn't be us. That you need some more heavy lifters for that.
Gotcha. Okay. And so, so you've been involved with for 4 years now, and started off part-time, now full-time,
Yeah.
and really, I've been at Bethesda since 1994, and I'm thinking that I don't remember Safe Families being at Bethesda before you came. So congratulations with that.
Yeah, thanks.
So how many volunteers do you have just at Bethesda? How many volunteers have been trained at Bethesda?
I'd say just under a dozen. It's a slow process. Um, at first glance, it's kind of scary, and I appreciate opportunities like this, Kevin, because we do a much better job of pitching safe families in a conversation than we do from a stage announcement. Because from stage, it makes it sound like I'm inviting people to just take a child for 6 months. And and that scares people away. Um, no, we're asking people to be villagers, and sometimes villagers give rides. Sometimes villagers just provide a pack and play that was sitting in their basement, right? Sometimes villagers help have coffee with mom while other villagers are babysitting the kids and just letting her vent. I don't know any parent who hasn't needed to vent about their children on this planet yet. So any way that a villager in your life has loved on you, no matter how small or big, we've got a role to play in safe families that way. So when we say volunteer for safe families, it could mean a lot of different things. And it just takes time to get the word out. Even a church that I attend, or other churches that we've been members at for years, we get a lot of people like, oh, I didn't really get that, Ben, from reading it in the bulletin, and that's understandable. That's understandable.
Yeah,
So it's a slow process, but we definitely go for quality over quantity.
absolutely. And I would guess that, like many things, regardless if it's a church or if it's in my world, counseling or speaking or whatever, word of mouth is ends up being a huge part of it. And once a person has a good experience as a volunteer, then they're going to be talking about that, and then that's going to probably be your most powerful testimony, marketing or branding, that you can have.
You nailed it. You nailed it. I'll give an example, and I know I've got their permission to use their name. TJ and Katie Webb have been in our church for a number of years, and there's been a couple of times where they came to church with more kids than they normally do. And that people, hey, who you got with you, and there you go. There's that testimony that oh, TJ and Katie, they're down to earth people. If they can do it, maybe I could do that too, or maybe I could support them um, in their trek.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things, and again, like any non-for-profit, right? It's cash flow funding is always one of those things that help, that's necessary for to be able to, um, like you had mentioned, you live on the generosity of the volunteers, but some individuals that may not be in their capacity because of work or because of what's going on. Um,
Absolutely.
how does Safe Families, where does the revenue come from to be able to do the trainings, to be able to provide resources for these parents and the children?
Great question. We we are incredibly frugal and proud of us for that. So we only have three staff. That actually I think three and a half staff, um, and that's the largest we've been in 10 years. And the rest of it's volunteers and churches and just an army of people, and but it still takes some money. And the bulk of our cost is just keeping those staff on board. Like I said, we get some money from DCFS. We're not a DCFS contractor. That's very different. We are grant recipients of the state of Illinois. But that doesn't cover everything. And so we've had to diversify. I spent a lot of time learning how to write grants. Um, and we have a lot of individual supporters who, like you said, I can't host a child, but I can contribute in some way. Um, and we have a lot of individual donors. We have a foundation out of Stevenson County that love what we are doing, and they want to match everyone's individual donation dollar for dollar. Um, so one of the other ways to help people have an opportunity to get involved in the village is this 5K we have coming up. If you don't mind me transitioning to that. Um, so it's a 5K run walk. It's very standard 5K in that way. But what's different about it is we have a little kids run that's free. We've got 5 local mascots that come out and run with them. We've got balloon animals. We've got face painting. We've got all of the sponsors that come on and chip in, like Four Corners, for example, whether it be State Farm or um, Blue Cross Blue Shield. I'm going to miss. We have 15 other sponsors. They're all allowed to have a table to advertise their little niche in the world, but the rule is they have to have a game for kids to play at their table. So there's going to be 15 different games and activities, for these kids to play. And we make sure that because we're a family oriented ministry, that all of that's free. Um, but being out there and learning about us is part of being the village and part of spreading the word. Because, like you said, Kevin, word of mouth for us is way more powerful than a billboard on East State Street or anything like that. Um, and it reaches the right genre of people that we're looking for that have a heart for serving children locally. All that money stays locally. I know I talked about we're a national organization, but that money stays here in the Rockford chapter. And if there's a surplus, then we get to keep that in a savings account and be wise with those funds. We've been blessed with diversifying it, but this 5K really adds an element where people can contribute as little as $1 or whatever they want and run, walk, be a part of it. They can donate money online as well. And honestly, just trying to get the word out is really kind of half the battle. I bet there's a lot of people listening in or in your circle that have been in the church community who say families, what? I've never heard of that. And that's a problem that we're looking to rectify. So we'll be out at Harlem High School on this Saturday morning from 8:30 to 10:30, and walk-ins are welcome, but if you can go online and register early, it's always better. And the kids get their own bib and they get medals and stuff, and we encourage the kids to register online as well, but even though it's free. So that gives people more, it gives a bigger crowd, a bigger way to contribute to the effort going on. Because like you said, not everybody can host a child for 3 days.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So just to make sure, Harlem High School off of Alpine Road, Saturday, March 28th from, you said 8:30 to 10:30, correct?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Doors open at 8:30. The official run starts at 9 and the kids run is at 10.
Awesome. And that'll be a great event. Hopefully the weather will cooperate. It looks like so far that looks like it's going to be a positive thing.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, uh, maybe it's going to be by contributing to in the walk run. Maybe it's just by observing and watching and meeting the other individuals that are there. But the fact that if someone is either listening and talking about it by going there and then later talking about, say, families, it's an opportunity to spread that message because you never know who could benefit from the resource or who would want to get involved with something.
Yeah. And I'll say the last thing is that word of mouth helps build trust in the community. And I don't know, thankfully, I've never been a single parent in a crisis situation of that magnitude. Um, but just because I hear the word say families doesn't mean I want to trust you with my child. But if the community and people around them are saying, hey, no, they're trustworthy, they're more likely to call and get the help that they need. And it helps us convince the single parent that we are trustworthy and we are going to give them their child back, and we're not a part of the system.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think that is such a it's I'm just thinking about some moms that I've worked with that are in a really vulnerable spot when it comes and it comes, you know, it doesn't come when there's opportunity to be well planned out. It comes
Mhm.
when, when what was planned starts falling apart. And just to be able to have that as a resource I think is huge. So I appreciate everything that you do with this, Ben, and your energy as always is contagious when people are talking to you. And if not, then you bring Sarah in. It's definitely contagious then. So,
Yeah.
any last things that you'd want to share with the listeners?
I'd just say, as it pertains to, what you talk about here, Kevin, being on a journey. Um, if you remember the Good Samaritan story, he was on a journey. He had a mission. He was, I don't know, climbing the corporate ladder, or he had a destination. Um, and he paused long enough to make it an inconvenience to him. But what was an inconvenience to the Good Samaritan was life-giving moment for the person that he got to serve. And it was only a brief exchange in their lives. As far as we know, they didn't become lifelong friends. And I just want to say out there, just, pursue the journey, be ferocious with that, but be on the lookout for minor inconveniences.
I can't resist but to kind of chime in on that story of the Good Samaritan and go maybe a little bit deeper. As I've come to understand that story, the Good Samaritan um, wasn't the church elder,
Mhm.
wasn't the pastor, the church elder, wasn't the paid professional to help that man that was wounded. He was someone from a different place, a stranger, and not of maybe didn't even look like the same as the person who was hurt, but he assisted that person on a temporary basis and assured him to get that help. And in a lot of ways, what you shared about safe families, I think, kind of follows that same storyline. That, to be that good Samaritan is us following what God's prompted us in our heart, and not because maybe we're trained a licensed professional to do it or someone of some kind of status, but getting trained and vetted through safe families, and then just being open to whoever may need that help. I think is just an awesome thing, and I think it's a great parallel with that story.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Just again, the Safe Families 5K run and then walk is this coming Saturday, March 28th at Harlem High School from 8:30 to 10:30. 8:30 is when the doors will open. And 9 o'clock is when the run will begin. If you get an opportunity to come out and support Safe Families or participate in the run, I really encourage you to do that. If for some reason you're not able to do that, Ben, what's the best place to find out more about Safe Families?
Type in the URL rockfordsafefamilies.org.
Perfect, and that'd be awesome. And then Ben or someone within the organization will get back to you regarding that.
Yeah.
As always, I appreciate you being here, and I look forward to being with you next week.